First Contact's price. The quantum sensors aboard the Meridian Alliance's flagship, Eternal Dawn, detected the research outpost as nothing more than a primitive collection of hydroponics domes and basic atmosphere processors. Admiral Vexthor's mandibles clicked in disappointment as he studied the holographic display. The humans had spent nearly 2 centuries in space, yet this was the extent of their reach. A handful of research stations scattered across the Orion Arm, using technology that the Alliance had mastered millennia ago. Pathetic, he chittered to his command staff. No wonder the Council dismissed them as a potential threat. They haven't even mastered basic gravitic manipulation. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Zura, moved closer to the display. The intelligence reports suggest they're deliberately limiting their technological advancement. Admiral, something about preserving their connection to Earth's natural systems. Primitive spiritualism, Vexthor dismissed. The Alliance needs these resource-rich systems for our expansion. If they won't join us willingly, we'll simply need to provide the proper motivation. He gestured to the weapons officer. Target their primary atmospheric processor. A single shot should be sufficient to demonstrate our displeasure with their refusal to join the Alliance. The weapons officer hesitated. Sir, the human diplomatic package was quite specific about their response to any aggressive action against their installations. Yes, they're absurd threats. Any hostile action against human installations will be met with overwhelming force. They have no force to speak of. Their entire space fleet consists of cargo haulers and research vessels. Vexthor's inner eyelids blinked in amusement. Fire when ready. The quantum beam lanced out from the Eternal Dawn, a precise surgical strike meant to disable the atmospheric processor. Instead, it splashed harmlessly against a shield that shouldn't have existed. Impossible. Vexthor leaped from his command chair. Their technology level. Multiple signatures emerging from the surface. Zyra shouted. They're coming from inside the hydroponics domes. The research station shed its peaceful exterior like a snake molting its skin. The hydroponics domes split apart, revealing weapon emplacements that made the Eternal Dawn's armaments look like toys. The atmospheric processor tower unfolded into a massive defense platform bristling with technologies that the Alliance's sensors couldn't even classify. This was never a research station, Zyra whispered. It's a fortress. A transmission cut through their command frequencies with ease, bypassing encryption that was supposed to be unbreakable. The human that appeared on their screens wore no uniform, no military insignia. She looked like any of the scientists they'd observed during their surveillance. This is Dr. Sarah Chen, Commanding Officer of Defense Platform Aurora. You were warned, Admiral Vexthor. The diplomatic package wasn't a threat. It was a courtesy. A chance for you to understand that humanity's apparent technological limitations were a choice, not a weakness. Vexthor's mandibles trembled. One installation cannot stand against the might-off. Look up, Admiral. The sensor officer's cry of alarm was unnecessary. They could all see it through the bridge's crystalline viewport. The void was filling with ships. Not the crude vessels they'd documented in their surveillance, but sleek predators of metal and energy, emerging from what appeared to be tiers in space itself. Quantum fold technology, Zyra breathed. They've mastered instant spatial translation. For the past 2 centuries, Dr. Chen continued, humanity has maintained a careful facade. We learned during our own bloody history that visible power attracts challengers. But invisible power, that's what keeps the peace. The ships surrounding them weren't just advanced. They were impossibly elegant, clearly the product of centuries of refinement and innovation. Each one hummed with energy signatures that suggested weapons capabilities far beyond anything in the Alliance's arsenal. We knew someone would eventually mistake our restraint for weakness. We prepared accordingly. Every research station, every colony, every single human installation in space is exactly what you're seeing now. A carefully concealed military fortress staffed by personnel who are all trained soldiers in addition to their civilian roles. Vexthor slumped in his command chair, Why? Why maintain such a deception? Because true power isn't about domination, Admiral. It's about prevention. Every species that came before you, every scout ship and diplomatic mission, they all discovered exactly what you have today. And they all made the same choice: peaceful cooperation. New readings appeared on their sensors. Similar transformations were taking place at every human installation across known space. The supposedly primitive species had built a military network of staggering proportions, all hidden in plain sight. You have two options, Admiral. You can retreat, return to your council, and explain why peaceful cooperation with humanity is the wisest course of action. Or, Vexthor managed to ask. Or you can fire again, and learn firsthand why every other spacefaring race chose to become our allies rather than our enemies. Dr. Chen's expression softened slightly. Choose wisely. We prefer friends to adversaries, but we are prepared for either. As Vexthor stared at the arsenal arrayed against his ship, he realized that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their hidden technology or their military might. It was their patience, the willingness to appear weak while building strength, to endure being underestimated while preparing for the moment when that misconception would serve their greater purpose. Stand down all weapons, he ordered. Transmit our surrender. Full and unconditional. The message he would carry back to the Alliance Council was clear. Humanity's technological restraint hadn't been a sign of weakness or primitive spiritualism. It had been a test, one the Alliance had just failed spectacularly. And now they would have to live with the consequences of their arrogance. The silent stars. The Meridian Alliance Council chamber had never been so quiet. The massive holographic display at its center showed a real-time map of human space, but it wasn't the territory that commanded their attention. It was what they'd missed within it. High Counselor Nexus, her crystalline form refracting light, in patterns that betrayed her agitation, gestured at the display. Every mining operation we dismissed as inefficient, every solar collection array we deemed primitive, every scattered research station we ignored. All of them, military installations of unprecedented sophistication. The intelligence director, a being of pure energy contained within an environmental suit, pulsed with embarrassment. We were monitoring their quantum communications, their ship movements, their resource consumption. Everything indicated a species just beginning to grasp interstellar travel. They wanted us to see that, a new voice declared. Admiral Vexthor entered the chamber, his kitten notably duller than when he'd departed on his ill-fated mission. Everything we monitored was exactly what they wished us to monitor. The display shifted, showing the transformation of the Aurora Research Station. What had appeared to be simple hydroponics domes became weapon emplacements that even the Alliance's best analysts couldn't fully comprehend. The atmospheric processor tower, revealed as a defense platform, exhibited energy signatures that defied their understanding of physics. Their deception goes deeper than mere hidden weapons, Vexthor continued. We've analyzed the data from our encounter. The human commander, Dr. Chen, wasn't just a scientist playing soldier. Our bioscanners detected extensive neural augmentations in her and every human present. They've achieved a level of human-machine integration that we thought impossible without destroying organic consciousness. The council chamber erupted in murmurs. Neural integration had been the holy grail of Alliance research for millennia. The biological cost had always proven too high, the test subjects either dying or losing their sapience entirely. There's more. Vexthor activated a secondary display, showing the ships that had emerged during the confrontation. These vessels, they're not just advanced, they're impossible. Our analysis suggests they're partially phase-shifted, existing simultaneously in normal space, and some other dimension we can't access. The power requirements alone should be beyond anything an organic civilization could achieve, the intelligence director finished. Yet they've done it, and hidden it, for centuries. High Counselor Nexus raised a limb for silence. The question isn't just how they achieved this, it's why they chose to reveal it now. They could have simply destroyed your ship, Admiral. Instead, they chose to demonstrate their power and send you back to us. Why? A new hologram appeared in the chamber center, replacing the tactical display. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before them, her image so perfect it seemed she was physically present. Because this was never about military superiority, she said, causing several council members to recoil in shock. Their most secure chamber, penetrated as easily as a public communications network. This was about breaking the cycle that has plagued galactic civilization for too long. What cycle? Nexus demanded, recovering quickly from the surprise. The cycle of technological supremacy leading to military aggression. Every species that achieves interstellar travel eventually faces the same temptation: to use their advancement as justification for expansion at others' expense. We studied your history, High Counselor. The alliance began as a mutual defense pact between three species. It became an empire through systematic conquest of less advanced civilizations. The chamber was silent again, but this time with the weight of uncomfortable truth. Humanity chose a different path. We developed our technology in secret, building defenses instead of empire. Every human installation in space serves two purposes: its stated scientific or commercial function, and its role in maintaining peace through the credible threat of overwhelming defense. You speak of peace, Vexthor interrupted, while maintaining the greatest military force we've ever encountered. Chen smiled. The strongest person in the room doesn't need to prove their strength, Admiral. They need only ensure others understand that violence would be unwise. We revealed our capabilities to you because the Alliance was reaching a critical point. Expansion at any cost, justified by technological superiority. We chose to demonstrate that such superiority is an illusion. And now, Nexus asked, what are your demands? We have none. Continue your governance of Alliance space. Maintain your trade routes. Develop your technology. But understand that military expansion is no longer an option. The galaxy is entering a new age, one where advancement will be measured not by the ability to conquer, but by the wisdom to coexist. The hologram shifted, showing the full extent of human space. Hidden fortress stations and phase-shifted fleets created an interlocking defensive grid of staggering complexity. It was both a demonstration and a warning. Any aggression would be met with a response so overwhelming that victory would be impossible. Your civilization stands at a crossroads, Chen concluded. You can view this as a humiliation, a challenge to overcome, in which case you'll spend centuries trying to match capabilities we've already moved beyond. Or you can view it as an opportunity to refocus your considerable resources on advancement that benefits all species. The choice, as always, is yours. The hologram vanished, leaving the Council to contemplate a future very different from the one they'd imagined. Their comfortable assumptions about humanity's limitations had been more than incorrect. They had been a carefully crafted illusion, designed to give them exactly this choice: adapt to a new paradigm of peace or persist in aggression and face the consequences. In the silence that followed, High Counselor Nexus realized that humanity had given them something far more valuable than territory or technology. They had given them a chance to break their own cycle of conquest, to choose wisdom over pride. The real question was whether they would take it. Protocol Infinity. The Galactic Archives, a vast repository of knowledge maintained by the enigmatic archivists, recorded an unprecedented surge of activity in the days following humanity's revelation. Species that had maintained careful neutrality for millennia suddenly sought diplomatic channels with Earth. Trade routes shifted as civilizations reassessed their relationships with both humanity and the Alliance. In a hidden chamber beneath Geneva's ancient streets, the Human Defense Council convened its first public session in 2 centuries. The room hummed with neural interfaces as military commanders, scientists, and diplomats connected to the global network that had become humanity's true strength. Admiral Helena Santos, her dark eyes reflecting holographic displays only she could see through her neural link, addressed the assembled representatives. The revelation of Protocol Infinity has achieved its primary objective. The Alliance's military expansion has been halted without a single human casualty. But at what cost? Ambassador Chen asked, her father's research having led to many of the breakthroughs that made their technological leap possible. We've disrupted the entire galactic power structure. 17 species have already requested protective alliances. That was always the risk. Director Marcus Webb of Strategic Operations countered, his weathered face bearing the subtle shimmer of advanced nano-augmentation. The moment we revealed our true capabilities, we knew it would force every spacefaring race to reevaluate their position. The question now is, how do we handle the aftermath? The chamber's central hologram displayed a real-time map of known space, with shifting patterns representing the diplomatic and economic shockwaves spreading from their revelation. Civilizations that had been on the brink of war suddenly found themselves reassessing the wisdom of conflict in a galaxy where humanity's hidden strength served as an equalizing force. We're receiving interesting data from our deep space monitoring arrays, Dr. Yuki Tanaka reported, her consciousness simultaneously present in the chamber and interfacing with research stations across human space. Several previously unknown species have emerged from self-imposed isolation. They've been watching, waiting, just as we have. The implications weren't lost on anyone. Humanity's strategy of hidden strength might not have been unique. How many other civilizations had chosen to conceal their true capabilities, waiting for the right moment to reshape galactic politics? The Meridian Alliance's response is the immediate concern, Santos continued. Their council is deadlocked. Half want to accelerate their military research, trying to close the gap. The other half are pushing for a complete restructuring of their society, arguing that our demonstration proves their current path is unsustainable. Then we proceed with Phase 2, a new voice declared. Secretary General Carmen Rodriguez entered the chamber, her presence commanding immediate attention. For 2 centuries, the position of Secretary General had been seen by other species as largely ceremonial. Now they knew it had been the civilian face of humanity's most closely guarded secret. Phase 2, she continued, was always the more difficult part of Protocol Infinity. Showing our strength was necessary but simple. Now we must show our wisdom, our restraint. We must demonstrate why we chose to hide our capabilities rather than dominate through them. The holographic display shifted, showing the thousands of human installations across known space. Each one now stood revealed as a masterpiece of engineering, combining their public scientific mission with defensive capabilities that redefined what was thought possible. Every human in space, Rodriguez reminded them, has carried this secret. Every colonist, every researcher, every trader. They lived modestly, maintained our deception, knowing they were part of something greater. Not an empire built on conquest, but a shield protecting the possibility of peace. The Alliance's younger species are already reaching out, Ambassador Chen reported. They see us as a potential counterweight to the elder race's dominance. They want protection, technology, alliance. And they will have friendship instead, Rodriguez declared. We didn't hide our strength to become the next galactic superpower. We hid it to break the cycle of empires, to create space for something new. The chamber's mood shifted as Phase 2's full implications became clear. Humanity had spent centuries preparing not just their defenses, but their response to this very moment. The elaborate dance of revelation and restraint would continue, but with a different purpose. Our diplomatic corps is ready, Chen said. Every human representative has been trained for this transition. We'll demonstrate that our technological achievements are matched by our ethical evolution. That strength doesn't require dominance. The Alliance's elder races fear will share our technology with their client species, Webb noted. That their carefully maintained hierarchy will collapse. It already has, Rodriguez smiled, but not through technology. Through example. We've shown there's another way. That a civilization can advance without conquering, can be powerful without demanding submission. The holographic display showed new diplomatic channels opening across the galaxy. Species that had been locked in centuries-old conflicts were requesting human mediators. The Alliance's client races were asserting independence, not through military might, but through careful negotiation backed by the knowledge that the balance of power had shifted. Protocol Infinity was never about winning a war, Rodriguez concluded. It was about preventing the next 1,000 wars, about creating an opportunity for genuine cooperation between equals. We spent centuries building the galaxy's most powerful shield. Now we use it to protect something far more valuable than territory. What's that? A junior diplomat asked. The chance for every species to choose its own path without fear of conquest. To advance through cooperation rather than competition. We're not here to rule. We're here to ensure no one else does either. As the council session continued, the galactic news networks buzzed with speculation about humanity's true capabilities. But they missed the most important revelation. Humanity's greatest technology wasn't their quantum-shifted ships or their neural interfaces. It was their patience, their willingness to play a longer game, to build power not for dominance but for protection. They had created the most powerful military force in known space not to wage war, but to make war obsolete. The real test was just beginning. The Meridian Gambit. First Scholar Kexley stared through the quantum glass viewport of her research vessel, watching the human defense platform shift its outer layers like a living thing. After 3 standard months of collaborative research, she still couldn't fully grasp how they had hidden such technology in plain sight for so long. Fascinating, isn't it? Dr. James Chen, Sarah Chen's brother, approached with 2 cups of what humans called coffee. The metamaterials we develop don't just change shape. They alter their fundamental physical properties at the quantum level. Kexley accepted the drink with her primary manipulator, her crystalline structure vibrating with excitement. As one of the few Alliance scientists granted access to human research facilities, she felt the weight of history. Your people achieved what our greatest minds thought impossible. Not just the technology, but the discipline to keep it hidden. It wasn't easy, James acknowledged, his neural implants glowing softly as he interfaced with the station's systems. Imagine discovering you could reshape reality itself, then choosing to live as if you couldn't. Every human child learned not just science and history, but the art of restraint. Across the station, similar scenes played out. The Alliance's brightest minds worked alongside human scientists, not receiving technology transfers as they'd hoped, but learning something perhaps more valuable. A new way of thinking about progress itself. In the station's Strategic Command Center, Admiral Vexthor, now serving as the Alliance's chief diplomatic liaison to Earth, reviewed reports with his human counterpart, Admiral Santos. The displays showed widespread changes across Alliance space. Another trade consortium has declared independence from central control, Vexthor noted, his mandibles clicking thoughtfully. That's the 12th this cycle. The old power structures are crumbling faster than we anticipated. Santos nodded, her neural interfaces synchronizing with the station's data streams. Change rarely happens gradually. Once people see an alternative to what they thought was inevitable, the transformation can be dramatic. Some of the elder races are calling it the Great Upheaval, Vexthor said. 3 millennia of carefully maintained hierarchies, dissolving in months. There are fears it will lead to chaos. Or perhaps to something better, Santos countered. Your younger species aren't rebelling or seeking revenge. They're establishing independent trade relationships, cultural exchanges, scientific collaborations. They're building connections your empire never allowed. On a dozen former Alliance worlds, the process Santos described was already bearing fruit. Species that had been relegated to resource extraction were developing their own technologies. Civilizations once dependent on Alliance protection were forming mutual defense pacts. The galactic economy was reorganizing itself around cooperation rather than control. In the Geneva archives, Ambassador Chen hosted a delegation of Alliance historians. Their task: understanding how humanity had maintained such perfect operational security for centuries. The answer surprised them. "We didn't use advanced technology to keep our secrets," she explained, displaying historical records. "We used human nature. Our tendency to form communities, to share burdens, to find meaning in collective purpose. Every human in space knew they were part of something larger than themselves." "But surely there were those who wanted to reveal the truth," asked Senior Chronicler Zix. "To boast of your achievements. Of course, we're human after all. But we created a culture where the greatest pride came from restraint. Our children grew up understanding that true strength isn't about displaying power, it's about knowing when not to use it." Deep in Alliance space, aboard the Eternal Dawn, now a diplomatic vessel, First Speaker Nexus met with Secretary General Rodriguez. The ship's once military command center had been converted into a conference room, symbolic of the broader changes sweeping the galaxy. "Your revelation forced us to confront uncomfortable truths," Nexus admitted, her crystalline form refracting light in patterns of deep contemplation. "We believed technological superiority gave us the right to guide younger species, to control their development. A common belief," Rodriguez noted, "one humanity struggled with in our own history, the assumption that advanced technology equals advanced ethics. That power confers wisdom. Yet you achieved what we thought impossible, not just technologically, but socially. A unified human civilization that maintained perfect secrecy while advancing beyond our comprehension. How? By understanding that unity doesn't require uniformity. Every human colony, every installation maintained its own culture, its own identity. What we shared wasn't control, it was purpose. The commitment to creating a galaxy where strength serves peace rather than domination." As their conversation continued, news arrived from across Gnome space. The collective mind of Rigel had opened its archives to younger species. The Silicon consciousness was sharing computational resources with organic civilizations. Ancient barriers were falling, not through force, but through choice. In orbit around Earth, a new structure took shape, the Galactic Concordat. Not an empire or an alliance, but a forum where all species, regardless of technological advancement, could participate as equals. Its design incorporated elements from 1,000 cultures, its purpose enshrined in the simple principle humanity had demonstrated. True civilization begins when power serves wisdom rather than ambition. The human achievement that most impressed other species wasn't their phase-shifted ships or their quantum manipulation. It was their foresight, their ability to see beyond the immediate advantages of technological superiority to envision a different kind of future. They had built the greatest military force in known space not to wage war, but to make war obsolete. And in doing so, they had given the galaxy something it had never truly had before, a choice about what kind of civilization it wanted to become. Tomorrow's peace. 5 years after humanity's revelation, the Galactic Concordat held its first full assembly. The massive station orbiting Earth's moon had become a symbol of what many now called the Silent Revolution, a fundamental reshaping of galactic society without a single shot fired in anger. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck, watching representatives from 300 species arrive through conventional space and quantum corridors. Some were former Alliance members, others had emerged from isolation after humanity's revelation, and a few were entirely new to the galactic community, drawn by the promise of genuine cooperation. Quite a view, isn't it? Admiral Vexthor approached, his once militant bearing softened by years of diplomatic service. "I remember when I thought humanity's research stations were primitive. Now I understand. The greatest deception is the one that lets others deceive themselves." Sarah smiled. "We played to expectations. Everyone assumed a spacefaring race would immediately showcase their best technology, flex their military might. By deliberately appearing limited, we created a blind spot that helped maintain peace." Below them, in the Concordat's main chamber, Secretary General Rodriguez prepared to address the assembly. The room itself was a testament to human ingenuity. Quantum-linked translation systems allowed instant communication across species, while phase-shifted spaces accommodated beings of wildly different environmental needs. When humanity revealed its true capabilities, Rodriguez began, her words reaching every delegate simultaneously in their native language. Many assumed we would become the new alliance, a dominant power imposing its will on others. Instead, we chose a different path. We used our strength not to control, but to create space for something unprecedented: true galactic cooperation. The holographic displays showed the changes of the past 5 years. Former Alliance worlds had developed their own unique paths, some focusing on art and culture, others on scientific research or trade. Without the pressure to conform to Alliance standards, diversity had flourished. In the station's diplomatic wing, Ambassador Chen met with representatives from the Rigel collective mind. The silicon-based consciousness had been one of the first to understand the full implications of humanity's strategy. Your species achieved something we thought impossible, the collective's avatar stated. Not just the technology, but the social evolution required to use it wisely. Our calculations suggest the probability of a species developing such capabilities, and choosing not to dominate was infinitesimal. Perhaps that's why it worked, Chen replied. We recognize that true advancement isn't just technological, it's ethical. The ability to build powerful weapons matters less than the wisdom to know when not to use them. Deep in the station's research sectors, first Scholar Kexley and Dr. James Chen had made a breakthrough. Their joint research into quantum physics had revealed new possibilities that neither humanity nor the Alliance had discovered alone.